I heard the sound of coins falling, but when I looked closer, they weren't coins at all. They were burning coals rolling across the floor of hell. I saw women and men dressed in fine suits, their faces twisted with agony, clutching bags that once looked like gold but were now filled with worms and fire. Their screams echoed. "This is the price of greed?" I wanted to run, but my feet were chained. Every time I tried to cry for help, the darkness swallowed my voice. I watched one woman I recognized, a former colleague from the bank, counting invisible money with skeletal fingers. When she looked up, her eyes were hollow flames, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't dreaming. I had crossed into a place I never believed was real. Thank you for coming around. Every time you watch, comment and share these testimonies, you help carry the message of truth to hearts that may never step into a church. And for that, I am deeply grateful. Please, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Take a moment now, and type your city, your country, or even just a flag emoji in the comments. It helps me feel connected to you across the miles. My name is Ada. And for many years I thought I had everything figured out. I was born in 1983, into a simple, hard-working family in Lagos, Nigeria. My parents raised me in the church, but I quickly discovered that money spoke louder than faith. By the time I was in my 20s, I had one obsession: success at any cost. I studied banking and finance, and after graduation, I landed a job at a reputable bank. At first it was exciting, wearing fine suits, walking into glass offices, having people respect me because of my title. But deep inside, I knew my drive wasn't about serving people. It was about proving I was somebody. I hated being looked down on, and I swore I would never be poor like my parents struggled to be. Slowly, greed became my silent companion. I started bending the rules, collecting small favors from clients, taking bribes under the table, manipulating accounts to make numbers look better than they were. Everyone in the system did it, so I told myself it wasn't wrong. And the more money I made, the emptier I felt. My Sundays were for appearances. I'd go to church, smile, give offerings, and leave before the sermon could cut too deep. I wanted God, but not His discipline. I wanted blessings, but not conviction. Truth be told, my Bible gathered dust, while my designer handbags multiplied. I told myself I was still a Christian. After all, I wasn't killing anyone. I wasn't committing obvious crimes, but my heart was hard, selfish, and blind. I looked at the poor on the street and thought, they are lazy. They should work harder. I mocked people who spoke passionately about hell, saying, that's just religious fear tactics. God is too merciful to send anyone there. Deep down I had fears. Sometimes at night, after closing deals or returning from lavish dinners, I would lie awake and feel a strange emptiness, as though money had turned to sand in my hands. I drowned that silence with more work, more shopping, more distractions. I didn't know it then, but greed was chaining me, link by link, closer to the very place I thought was only a myth. Everything began to change on a Monday morning, in July 2019. The date is carved into my memory like fire, July 8, 2019. I had just closed one of the biggest transactions of my career, a deal worth millions. My bosses congratulated me, clients showered me with praises, and I felt invincible. That evening, I celebrated with colleagues at a rooftop restaurant. I remember sipping expensive wine, laughing, boasting about how unstoppable I was. But pride always comes before a fall. That night, my body betrayed me. I collapsed in the middle of my celebration, glass shattering from my hand. While people screamed and rushed to call an ambulance, I thought it was just exhaustion. I thought I would wake up in a hospital bed. But what awaited me was not rest. It was a journey into a darkness I had always denied. The last thing I remember on that rooftop was laughter. My colleagues clapping, the city lights glittering like diamonds below, and the warm rush of pride in my chest. Then suddenly my heart felt like it was gripped by an iron fist. My breath caught, my vision blurred, and I heard someone scream, "She's fainting." The sound of shattering glass echoed as I fell. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the hospital. I was standing in the same restaurant, but everything was frozen. My body lay motionless on the ground, my colleagues bending over me, their mouths moving silently as if underwater. I tried to touch them, but my hand went straight through. Panic seized me. Was I dead? Then I heard it, the sound of rushing wind, heavy, cold and violent. Out of the shadows came a darkness so thick it seemed alive. I felt myself being pulled downward, as if invisible chains had wrapped around my legs. I screamed, but no one could hear me. The more I fought, the stronger the pull became. The descent was horrifying. At first, it was silence, then came whispers, accusing, mocking voices. Greedy soul, you sold compassion for coins. You loved money more than God. I covered my ears, but the voices grew louder. Suddenly, the silence shattered into screams, millions of screams, so sharp and piercing that they cut into my very soul. The smell hit me next, sulfur, burning flesh, and rotting decay all at once. It was so overpowering that I gagged, but there was no escape from it. Then I saw it. Hell, it wasn't a place of imagination, it was real, and it was alive. Rivers of fire stretched as far as the eye could see, caverns filled with smoke and shadows moved like creatures. Souls were chained to burning desks, pounding endlessly on books filled with numbers that never balanced. I recognized them. Bankers, investors, wealthy men and women. Their suits were scorched, their faces twisted in eternal despair. I saw money everywhere, but it wasn't money anymore. Bills turned into serpents slithering into people's mouths. Coins became hot coals that burned their hands, yet they couldn't drop them. Every time they tried to let go, the chains tightened, forcing them to clutch their torment. I cried out, "No, this can't be happening." I went to church, I gave offerings, but a voice thundered in the darkness, "You loved wealth more than righteousness. You clothed yourself in pride and forgot the poor. You worshipped mammon, not me." I saw a woman I once admired, a senior banker who had mentored me. She was seated on a throne of fire, screaming, her fingers endlessly counting invisible money. She turned and looked at me. Her eyes were hollow flames, and she shrieked, "It's too late, Ada, too late." I fell to my knees, trembling. Fear like I had never known consumed me. Every excuse, every justification, every lie I had told myself crumbled. For the first time, I understood. Hell is real, and I was standing in it. And just as the darkness reached out to drag me deeper, I saw a glimmer, like the faintest crack of light breaking through a storm. That glimmer of light grew brighter until it pierced the suffocating darkness around me. The screams, the heat, the chains. Everything seemed to recoil as if something greater had entered. I covered my face, unable to look. The brilliance was blinding, yet warm, unlike the cruel fire of hell. Then I heard a voice, not thunder, not anger, but a voice that carried both authority and compassion. It called my name. Ada, just that single word, and I broke. My knees gave way, and I sobbed like a child. The darkness trembled as the light advanced. I saw shapes retreating, those shadowy creatures that had been dragging me deeper. They hissed, snarled and pulled away, powerless against the presence that filled that pit. "Why? Why am I here?" I cried. My words echoed in the void. The voice answered, steady and tender, "Because your heart served greed, not God. You clothed yourself in wealth, but neglected the garments of righteousness. You honored mammon, and ignored my spirit." Every memory flooded back, every bribe, every mocking laugh at the poor. Every time I placed money above mercy, my soul felt naked, exposed, and ashamed. "Lord, please," I wept, "give me another chance. I don't want to die here. I don't want to end like this." Then silence. For a moment, I thought it was over, but suddenly, the light enveloped me completely. I felt warmth, not burning, but healing. The voice spoke again. "Your time has not yet come. Go back, and warn them. Tell them that greed blinds the soul, that wealth without mercy is chains without end. Tell them I am coming soon, and many are not ready." The words pierced me deeper than any sermon I had ever heard. They were not simply commands, they were a mission stamped on my soul. The next moment, I felt a rushing wind pulling me upward. The cries of the damned faded behind me. The fire, the chains, the sulfur, it all dissolved into nothingness as the light carried me higher and higher. And then darkness again, but this time, it wasn't hell, it was the blackness of closed eyes. I heard faint voices calling my name, urgent and panicked. A sharp sting pierced my chest, my eyes flew open, and I gasped for air. I was in a hospital bed. A doctor shouted, "She's back." My colleagues wept with relief around me, but as I lay there, tears streaming down my face, I knew something they didn't. I had just been pulled out of hell by the mercy of God, and I had been sent back with a message the world desperately needs to hear. When I returned from that experience, I was not the same Ada. Something inside me had died in hell, and something new was born on that hospital bed. The doctors called it a miracle that I survived, but I knew the truth. It wasn't just survival, it was mercy. God had spared me, and from that day forward, my priorities shifted completely. The money I once worshipped no longer had power over me. The handbags, the jewelry, the luxurious lifestyle, suddenly, they felt meaningless, like ashes in my hands. I began to see people differently. The same beggars I once despised now broke my heart. I couldn't pass a child on the street without remembering the cries of souls chained in hell. I resigned from my banking job within months. My colleagues thought I was crazy. "How can you leave such a career?" they asked. But I knew I couldn't go back to the life that nearly cost me eternity. Instead, I devoted myself to helping others. I began sharing my testimony, warning anyone who would listen. Hell is real, greed is a snare, and eternity cannot be bought with silver or gold. Even my family noticed the change. My pride softened into humility, my temper turned into patience, and my cold heart began to love with compassion. I'm not perfect, far from it, but every day, I live with the memory of those screams, the sight of those souls, and the voice that told me, "Go back and warn them." Now every breath I take is a borrowed one, and I have only one mission: to prepare as many souls as possible for eternity. If greed has gripped your heart, let this be your warning: nothing you own on earth can purchase peace in eternity. Jesus asked, "What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" I was a banker, but I almost bankrupted my eternity. Please, repent while there's still time. Thank you for walking with me through this testimony. I don't share these things lightly. Every word carries the weight of eternity. Now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Do you believe greed has blinded many in our world today? Please, share your heart in the comments below. I'll be reading them. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe for more testimonies, and share it with someone who needs a wake-up call. Until next time, my friend, stay ready. Eternity is closer than we think.